everyone. I'm Jerika Duncan. Here's what's happening right now. Breaking news, an arrest in the murder mystery of a Columbus, Ohio dentist and his wife. We'll have the latest on the breakthrough.
Tonight, the victim's ex-husband is behind bars, charged with 2 counts of murder. I'm Allie Bauman with the latest on the investigation.
Also tonight, rising tensions in Minnesota and across the country after the deadly ICE shooting.
I'm Usher Qureshi in Minneapolis. Outrage is boiling over after an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Nicole Good.
Protests rage in Iran as outrage against the regime grows. The exiled son of the last Shah cheering them on, saying he's now ready to return. Takeover target.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not.
I'm Willie James Inman, traveling with the president in West Palm Beach, Florida, with new reporting on the intensifying showdown over control of the strategic Arctic island.
All that plus loss and resilience.
I'm Anders Gutierrez in Los Angeles, where 1 year after the devastating wildfires in Southern California, there is frustration, but also sounds of hope.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Saturday. We'll get the latest from Minnesota and the mounting threat to the regime in Iran in a moment, but we begin with some breaking news. Tonight, a suspect is under arrest in the murder mystery of a dentist and his wife in Columbus, Ohio. CBS's Allie Bauman has the very latest tonight. Allie.
Jerika, the nearly 2-week-long manhunt has culminated in the arrest of the victim's ex-husband, some 450 miles away from the scene of the crime.
Michael McKee is facing murder charges tonight. The 39-year-old is accused of shooting and killing his ex-wife Monique and her husband Spencer Tepe.
There's a body.
The couple was found dead in their Columbus, Ohio home last month. A friend discovered their bodies after Spencer, a well-known dentist, did not show up for work.
He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, in his blood. I can't get closer to see more than that.
Police found the couple's 2 young children alive and unharmed and said there were no signs of forced entry. 3 bullet casings were also recovered at the scene. Earlier this week, investigators released video asking for help identifying this person seen walking near the couple's home hours before their bodies were discovered. According to an affidavit, detectives caught up with McKee in Rockford, Illinois, connecting him to a vehicle seen on neighborhood surveillance in Columbus around the time of the murders. The Tepe family released a statement saying the arrest represents an important step toward justice for Monique and Spencer. We carry forward their love as we surround and protect the 2 children they leave behind.
They were the glue of so many people in such a large community that they brought together.
And McKee is scheduled to appear in an Illinois courtroom on Monday, which may start the extradition process to Ohio. Jerika, police have not yet revealed a motive.
Such a horrifying story. Allie Bauman, thank you. Tonight, there's growing fallout in Minneapolis after the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent. There were large organized protests today in the city calling for justice for Good and for ICE to leave Minnesota. There were also protests in cities nationwide in what organizers dubbed ICE Out for Good weekend of action. CBS's Usher Qureshi is in Minneapolis with more on that part of the story. Usher.
Good evening, Jerika. We're just feet from where Renee Nicole Good was shot earlier this week. Following mass demonstrations earlier in the day, many have made their way to the memorial here to pay their respects and to continue to protest.
What's her name? Say her name!
Thousands of people braved sub-zero temperatures to protest this week's fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good and the Trump administration's surge of immigration agents to the Twin Cities.
As a person of color, I have to hold my passport just in case ICE comes to me.
Today, the latest video of the shooting. This one, posted by the Department of Homeland Security, claims to show Good was allegedly impeding agents immediately before the confrontation on Portland Avenue. This cell phone video released Friday from Jonathan Ross, the federal immigration officer who opened fire. The new images are raising tensions and questions about Ross's tactics.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
Who has served at the agency for over a decade. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara.
Anytime a police officer fires a gun at an unarmed motorist in a car that's moving, it's deeply concerning.
It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us.
Late Friday, Good's wife, who is also in the video, gave a statement to Minnesota Public Radio, saying in part, "We stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns." She was part of a community response to more than 2,000 ICE officers deployed to the Twin Cities in a Trump administration blitz against illegal immigration. Today, Minnesota's congressional representatives tried to visit the ICE offices in Minneapolis. They were asked to leave. Last night, bedlam at 2 downtown Minneapolis hotels. Protesters created a ruckus where ICE agents were thought to be staying. Police made 29 arrests. But Saturday, the city's mayor complimented citizens for the overall peaceful demonstrations.
Will not counter Donald Trump's chaos with their own brand of chaos here. We in Minneapolis are going to do this right.
And Jerika, Minnesota leaders are urging protesters to stay peaceful tonight.
And Usher, what's the latest with the investigation?
Well, the FBI is still shutting out state investigators despite local officials' demands that they participate. Jerika?
Usher Qureshi in Minneapolis, thank you. Overseas now, tonight, Iran's army is threatening to join the crackdown on protesters as demonstrations against the regime grow. Huge crowds have taken to the streets across the Islamic Republic. Iran's Revolutionary Guard calls them terrorists. CBS's Haley Ott at our London bureau has more.
Good evening. Demonstrations against the Islamic Republic appear to be growing despite a nationwide internet blackout and a new warning that protesters could face charges that carry the death penalty. Thousands filling the streets. Human rights groups say at least 65 people have been killed and 2,300 detained in demonstrations that began in Tehran almost 2 weeks ago, sweeping across the country in response to Iran's crashing currency and struggling economy. Iran's leaders shut the internet down on Thursday, sparking fears of a crackdown.
You better not start shooting.
Despite threats from President Trump. Maziar Bahari is the editor of the independent news site Iran Wire. The president has said that if any protesters are killed, there will be an American response. How seriously do you think the regime is taking that?
It has inspired many protesters to come out because they know that the leader of the world's main superpower is supporting their cause.
America has already lost the game.
Iranian state media showed only pro-government demonstrations, claiming wider unrest had been limited. But the few social media videos that have made it through the internet blockade tell a different story of huge crowds chanting death to the dictator and government buildings on fire. Is this a tipping point?
Many people have called what is happening in Iran right now a revolution, but a revolution usually needs a leader for the revolution, but we do not have that leader at the moment.
One man who could become that leader, U.S.-based Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the ousted Shah, has been encouraging protesters to go further, to seize and hold city centers. Pahlavi says he's now planning his return home to Iran to be there for what he calls the revolution's victory. One thing's for sure, Jerika, leaders of the Islamic Republic do not intend to go without a fierce fight.
Haley Ott in London, thank you. Tonight, new U.S. military strikes in Syria targeting the Islamic State militant group. It came as Syria announced a ceasefire with Kurdish fighters after 3 days of clashes in the country's north. This is the second time that U.S. forces have hit ISIS targets since a deadly attack on U.S. troops back in December. Today marks 1 week since that surprise U.S. attack on Venezuela and the capture of Nicolas Maduro. President Trump now appears to be focusing on a new takeover target, Greenland. CBS's Willie James Enman is traveling with the president and is near the Florida estate. Willie James.
Jerika, good evening to you. As President Trump pushes American oil companies to invest in Venezuela, he's also doubling down on his threat to annex Greenland.
President Trump is targeting a NATO ally.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not.
But Greenland, a territory of Denmark, is rejecting the threats.
Greenland is not a product. We're a people.
The White House has not ruled out using military force, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio told lawmakers the U.S. would prefer to purchase Greenland rather than invade.
The fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land.
President Trump gathered American oil executives to discuss investment in Venezuela on Friday, 1 week after the capture of Nicolas Maduro.
So we just had a great meeting with the oil executives. We've sort of formed a deal.
He says he urged them to invest $100 billion into rebuilding the petroleum infrastructure while also guaranteeing their security for operations.
Well, we're going to work with the Venezuelan leaders and people, and we're going to have a very safe group, and they're going to also bring over some security with them.
But some executives expressed hesitancy over restarting operations.
If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable. And so significant changes have to be made.
And Jerika, Denmark's prime minister stressed that if the U.S. tries to take Greenland by force, it could mean the end of the NATO alliance. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to meet with Danish officials next week to discuss Greenland.
Willie James Inman traveling with the president. Thank you. Now to the weather and a new storm threat this weekend. Let's check in with CBS News meteorologist Andrew Kozak in Philadelphia.
Yeah, good evening, Jerika. It was a rough start for so many across the Deep South this morning. A pretty powerful cold front, the clash of the cold air, the warm air, giving severe thunderstorms to places like Atlanta. All of that rain moving off, and now we start looking at the Clipper system. The second low that we have here, that's going to give snow to areas like Michigan and the Great Lakes as we move into your Sunday. We have winter weather advisories, that's in the purple. An additional 5 to 7 inches of snow and very gusty winds, up to 11 inches possible for places like Marquette, Michigan in the Upper Peninsula. But for so many of you, Sunday is going to end up being a very nice day, a very comfortable day, and a very dry day, especially for those areas that need it. California, no exception. I want to talk about this, leave on a very positive note. It's been a very rough couple of months for California, but for the first time in 25 years, we have no abnormal dryness, we have no drought situation. 14 of 17 major reservoirs are 70% full, and the wildfire risk, Jerika, is near zero. Fantastic news for now.
Absolutely. Andrew Kozak, thank you. And this just in, Bob Weir, a co-founder of the Grateful Dead, has died. Weir was a cornerstone of the band as a singer, songwriter, and guitarist. He died after a long battle with cancer and lung issues. That's according to his family. Bob Weir was 78 years old. Well, straight ahead, it's a comeback for the ages. Why 41 is fabulous for skier Lindsey Vonn. But first, this story.
1 year after the devastating wildfire struggles to rebuild, I'm Anders Gutierrez in Los Angeles with the concerns and signs of hope coming up on the CBS Weekend News.
This week marks 1 year since wildfires erupted across the Los Angeles region. At least 31 people were killed and thousands of homes and businesses destroyed. Most have not been rebuilt, and the disaster still a raw wound in the communities of Altadena and Pacific Palisades. CBS's Andres Gutierrez is there for us tonight with an update. Andres.
Good evening, Jerika. Just 2 homes out of the more than 16,000 structures destroyed have been issued certificates of occupancy. Now, a year later, a majority of property owners are living in temporary housing.
It's fairly evident that we haven't gotten very far.
This week marks 1 year since Jens Lindemann fled the inferno that would destroy his Pacific Palisades home. Today, the site remains in ruins.
What's the holdup?
I think there are many, many layers of bureaucracy involved at many different levels.
Lindemann, a celebrated trumpet soloist, faces the same obstacles as other wildfire victims, rebuilding plagued with red tape. The city of LA has approved less than half of the more than 3,000 applications to rebuild, forcing many into another year of temporary housing. As the flames closed in, a former student firefighter, Mark Stevenson, called Lindemann from the front lines.
I called him and said, "You need to get off the hill." I was quite chilled, and I said, "We're out of here."
We first met Lindemann weeks after the coastal community was destroyed.
I had over 40 trumpets. I managed to save 8 of them on the way out.
He's been back several times since, even finding solace performing amid the debris. The firestorms killed 31 people, the damage estimated at $250 billion. A year later, the trauma hasn't eased.
It's very hard to describe the emotional waves of grief that just sort of come over you.
But now a way to help heal. Lindemann organized a concert of hope with a dozen fellow musicians, among them his former student. Their goal, not to forget what happened, but to face it together.
I believe in the spirit of people to help us move forward as a community together. I believe in that.
Property owners would like to see permit fees waived. For them, it's the difference between rebuilding and selling. Jerika?
Andres Gutierrez, thank you. Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, a Superman first goes for a super price. Details ahead. Lindsey Vonn strikes again today in Austria. The American Alpine superstar won her second World Cup downhill of the season, with the Olympics just 1 month away. It's a remarkable comeback for the 41-year-old. Vonn had retired 6 years ago and is skiing on a rebuilt knee made of titanium. This will be her 5th Winter Olympics. Well, NASA has announced its plans to bring back 4 astronauts from the International Space Station. They're coming back earlier than planned because one of the astronauts is dealing with a medical issue. NASA has not identified who that is. The 4-person crew is expected to splash down off the coast of California on Wednesday. Get ready. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a record auction. A copy of the comic book that introduced Superman to the world has been sold for $15 million in a private sale. Only 100 copies are known to exist of Action Comics #1. When it was published back in 1938, it cost just 10 cents. Next on the CBS Weekend News, the man who is fighting to keep old Victorians looking new. But first, a look back at this day in history.
President Reagan today ordered full, formal U.S. diplomatic ties with the Vatican. Some opponents of the move charge it is a blatant, transparent bid for Roman Catholic votes in an election year.
We end tonight in San Francisco. Aside from the Golden Gate Bridge, there's probably no more famous landmark in the Bay Area than the Painted Ladies. In our weekend journal, CBS's Itai Hodge shows us how one man has been fighting to keep the beloved homes picture perfect.
Okay, this is where we are over there.
In San Francisco, when an old Victorian is feeling a little pale, Dr. Color makes a house call.
This is primer right here.
But this physician doesn't prescribe pills. He orders plum, teal, and the occasional dash of real gold.
Why 24-karat gold? Because it's going to last 25 or 30 years.
San Francisco is known for its colorful Victorians, and few people have shaped that signature look more than Dr. Color, otherwise known as Bob Buchter.
We're talking 18,000 jobs just in San Francisco.
18,000. His latest patient, a Victorian from the 1870s, currently owned by Sue Pierce.
You want to have the colors relate to each other in that classic way. When you see these beautiful Victorians around town, you want your house to look like that.
For years, many of these homes fell out of fashion and into disrepair, until the 1960s, when the so-called colorist movement started reimagining them in bright new hues. Buchter quickly became one of the most visible figures in that revival, even picking out the palette for 2 of the city's most iconic Victorians, known as the Painted Ladies. Ben Zotto, an author who literally wrote the book on Buchter, says these once overlooked homes are now some of the most coveted real estate in San Francisco.
Bob's work infuses so much of what we think of when we think of San Francisco.
And that canvas, Buchter says, is far from finished.
You're not planning on retiring anytime soon? When I'm dead.
Until then, San Francisco remains under Dr. Color's care, and the prognosis has never looked brighter. Itai Hot, CBS News, San Francisco.
Don't look down at the ground. That way, you don't.
What a nice man. Well, that is the CBS Weekend News for this Saturday. Tomorrow on Face the Nation, Margaret Brennan's guests include Energy Secretary Chris Wright and Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar. For now, I'm Jerika Duncan in New York. We thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you tomorrow.